Hey, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Amanda.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Kathleen.
And this is the federal election edition of Beyond a Ballot, powered by DoorDash.
It's Saturday, March 29th. Welcome to Beyond a Ballot. I'm Hannah Thibodeau, and this week, the campaign trail has been nonstop daily rallies, wall-to-wall supporters, and some jaw-dropping crowds. So let's start with the jaw-dropping crowds. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, his rallies have been so massive at some times, they're turning people away. Rachel Siegel, over 3,000 showed up in Hamilton, more than 5,500 Thursday night in Surrey. I honestly have covered campaigns for years. I haven't seen numbers like this. How's he pulling it off?
Well, I think the message is resonating, and we've talked about the idea that Pierre is talking about affordability. He's talking about putting money in people's pockets. He's talking to the 35-year-old that lives in their mom's basement, and those messages are so important after so long of people struggling in this country. But what we saw in Surrey, for context here, Hannah, this was not a rally in a downtown hotel ballroom. This was a rally in an industrial zone in Surrey with no public transportation. People were lining up hours before. It was incredible to see the number of people come out for him, and the numbers just grow and grow as he goes across the country. And so what I think we're seeing ultimately with this rally is him being able to communicate to a lot of portions of the population that are in turn coming out to hear more from him.
Amanda Alvaro, Liberal leader Mark Carney isn't drawing the Pierre-level crowds. It is still a solid turnout, though. What is his team's strategy?
Well, he's been off the campaign trail for a couple of days, so it'll be interesting to see how those rallies look in the coming days and weeks. But I think it's also it's a little bit like it's our temptation to look at the numbers in rallies and think that that translates to general support. I mean, the base is the base, and the conservative base is of course strong, and the liberal base is strong, and even the NDP has their base, and those are the people who turn out at rallies. Those are the volunteers and the members and the candidates and their networks, and that's who shows up. But it would be foolish to suggest that a rally is then really sort of like a microcosm of what an entire population looks like. It just doesn't translate that way.
Kathleen Monk, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh's events are smaller, but the optics are still good and they matter. Are his rallies more vibe than volume?
Well, listen, I think just more generally that leaders' tours really, really matter. I think we'd all agree already that campaigns matter, but why leaders' tour matters is because you have to get out on a national tour, especially in a country as large as Canada, and start to build the narrative across the country. And that takes visuals. Mainly those visuals, 10, 15 years ago were meant for TV, right? We were always looking for that TV shot, what the look was. That's the focus on podium art. I mean, we could do several whole podcasts just on podium art and the messaging there. But I think it's really only one constellation in a series of data points that you need to look at when you're looking at a success of a campaign or a success of a party and who's doing well in the polls. So I would not just look at rally size. It's certainly a part of it. I think it's important. Like when you tell me that, Pierre Poilievre is still able to bring out 4,500 people on a night, sure, that's important. But I can also give you handfuls and handfuls of examples of where Jack Layton in 2011 was having really, really small rallies until it all changed. And then people, were coming out in the thousands and the thousands and the thousands for these rallies. When you look at each riding's around 120,000 people, really 4,500 isn't that much. You want to look at other data points, fundraising numbers, momentum, obviously public domain polling, although that can be really risky too, because you need to have actually hyper local polling to understand what's really going to work if a candidate's going to win there or not. But certainly it's something to look at. And also they're really fun for politicos like me and Amanda and Rachel. Like this is the stagecraft, right? We're thinking about what music are they going to use at the rally and what's the signs, and are there going to be noisemakers like cowbell or thunder sticks? Like this is the kind of stuff that we live for. Never mind writing the speeches and all the stuff that goes into a rally event.
I'm always stressed watching these. As
Are
a
you?
as a
Why?
former staffer, there's so many things that could go wrong, and there's such a big audience.
So
Nobody else
you
is
just asked my
stressed.
question.
Yeah.
What are the risks at these rallies?
Oh,
Because we've
well,
seen a few.
yeah, I mean, obviously there's security risks. You have a lot of people in a really small space at a very heightened time in politics, and there's a lot of emotions in the room. So these could go south quickly. And then, of course, well, like Kathleen was talking about, what's the image of the leader? What's the leader saying? Last time in Surrey, we saw Pierre pick up a kid from the audience who was wearing a police costume. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope this goes well. Because it's one thing to have his kids on the campaign trail, but to have some random child that was there in the audience with him and on stage is a major risk in terms of his messaging and his image from that moment. What if the kid didn't like him and ran away? That didn't happen, but luckily in this case. But there is a lot of risk, I think, when you have massive crowds around a leader.
Amanda, do you want to dig into the risks a bit as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think also rallies are really used as kind of performance tools that you can translate into content for social, you can translate into ads. And I think so they're looking for that view of momentum, that visual that really is compelling to voters. Like, gosh, look at all the people and they look like me and they sound like me and they're excited for my leader. So there's a lot hinging on those rallies from a communication standpoint as well, because the communicators on the campaign are looking to take the visuals and the content and the words from those rallies and turn them into amplifying tactics that they can continue to use. So the money that's spent on a rally isn't just a one-hit wonder, that you're getting some longevity off of those crowds.
And talking about longevity, I have been on all three campaigns throughout all of these campaign rallies. It's a stump speech too. It's repeat, repeat, repeat. So hopefully everybody across the country picks up on what the message is. Kathleen, want to dig into
Yeah,
that
so
one?
while the speeches may be predictable, especially for journalists who are following the leaders all the time, what's not predictable is the crowds. And I think in terms of the risks that both Rachel and Amanda were speaking of, you never know if there's going to be that heckler in the crowd, right? Like you never know what's going to happen, and that's happened. Political stunts from the opposition researcher styles. Whoever's going to send a chicken suit to some rally or some kind of placard. I mean, these are the things that a lot of politicos live for. So you have to watch out for, and that's why. Actually, there's been cases such as 2011 when Stephen Harper was running again for prime minister and he received his mandate, his full majority mandate. He actually blocked people from the rallies. He refused to actually have the public join his rallies. So that could be a contentious issue too. Remember, journalists are traveling with the political leaders. So there's always a weird tension at rallies.
Not all.
Well, not this time. Correct. You're right. That's right. Good note. But in the past, journalists have always been invited to rallies. And so there's always this awkward tension too, where you're having this big rally with the public and the crowd. And then you have to delve right into scrum, often in front of partisans who are supportive. So you also don't want the public to be booing journalists, which has happened on occasion.
I think I might have been one of those journalists that got booed, but that's okay. That's okay. It's their feelings. I'm okay with that. But there's also and the risk of people bringing in signs, or we saw CTV News reporting today about, some people wanting to bring or wearing MAGA hats at one of the events as well. And they said, take those hats off, because that's not the image that the Conservatives want to have out there as well. Rachel, do you want to go into that one? That was something last night that was happening.
I just think of all the campaigns that I've worked on, and campaigns in general are all about minimizing risk right. To your candidates, to your local campaigns, especially to the leader. And so, not to reiterate what we've already said, but really on this grand scale, this public scale, the number of people in these rooms, all you can do is try and control that risk to a point, and then people are really off to the races. And so, yep, you're going to have people showing up in t-shirts. We're seeing that all over the country. But at the end of the day, I think that the reason these work is because there's a level of respect for all of the leaders at these things. And the majority, you have to put your faith in the fact that the majority of these people that are willing to stand in a lineup on a
For
farm
hours.
in a rural in Surrey on a farm in the rain are people that are going to respect the leader, respect the party, and really try and help him get elected.
Kathleen, you wanted to jump in, and then
Yeah,
Amanda.
and just to build on Rachel's point, there's often rope lines where the candidate gets to shake hands, photos, kiss babies, all that kind of stuff. So if you're a diehard partisan, that's the moment you get to meet the person that you've been either working for or want to vote for. But the one thing I would mention is that, frankly, most people who run in politics, understandably, have a bit of an ego. And so they like to know the numbers. They want to have the crowds. They want to have rooms go from booked from 250 people. They're like, no, we've got to expand the room now to 450 people or 8,000 people, and that's often why tour people rent rooms that can actually be expanded, right? Take down those walls, move them larger and larger. I mean, the best example of this that you got to give has got to be President Trump, right? Who loves to exaggerate the size of his rallies and almost compare it to maybe his genitalia. I'm not sure, whatever's going on there.
Oh my God. But we all just
okay, Amanda, I want to get that image out of my head.
Oh my
Sorry,
God. I'm going to leave you with the final word in this one.
Well, I also think that the risk of something going wrong in a rally today, I would argue matters more than it ever has before, because the shelf life of a rally can be quite long. All of that content is captured, not just by the campaign, but by anyone who's attending. So if something goes sideways, it's on Instagram in a nanosecond. It's all over TikTok. Not stay there forever, but if it's really bad, it might. So I do think that the campaigns take extra care to make sure that they have the right people in the room. The MAGA hats are not turning up at the Polyev events. So when they're standing outside in line, they're like, get those hats off because we don't want the visual of MAGA and Polyev.
I want to thank all of you listeners for rallying around us. We will be back on Monday with more from the campaign trail right here on Beyond a Ballot.
Thank you for listening. New episodes come out daily, and you can find Beyond a Ballot on Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. A huge thank you to our title sponsor, DoorDash, and sponsors Equal Voice, Page, and Canada Powered by Women for making this election special possible. Speak to you tomorrow.